Hey guys, good morning. It's 10 o'clock Central Time, and on behalf of the Jamf software team, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, iOS 7 and the Casper Suite. My name is Katie Bosch. I'm one of the marketing specialists located here in Minneapolis. And I just want to thank you guys so much for dedicating part of your morning to spend some time with us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the reins over to John Miller, our product manager.
All right, thanks, Katie. And again, thank you everybody for taking some time out of your mornings or afternoons or evenings, depending on where across the world you're joining us from. My name is John Miller, and I'm one of the product managers here with Jamf Software. And I'm excited to have a chance to speak with everybody about the new changes in iOS 7, what Apple has done from providing MDM vendors with new technology, but really not just the technology, but what that means for us as IT administrators and what we can actually do with this new technology and what new problems we can solve. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about three different things with the latest version of the Casper Suite that Jamf Software has done to take advantage of new technology in iOS 7 to help you as IT administrators get your job done well and do this in as automated and simple of a way as possible. We're going to talk about just kind of some general collaborative work environment workflows that are now enabled with iOS 7. Then we're going to talk about some things that I think are probably more important or helpful in commercial organizations, and then talk about things that are helpful in education organizations. There is the shared space where everybody has the same types of challenges or similar challenges. When we look at commercial and education, there's a lot of overlap, but also some differences. And so we want to talk about those and give some ways to actually take advantage of what's new in iOS 7, help understand why these changes matter for us as IT admins, and then give paths forward to utilize this new technology. We could spend all day in Keynote doing a lot of the things, kind of showing what's new, but I'm more of a technical person myself, and so I'd rather just show you what we have here in the JSS in the Casper Suite. So what we're seeing on my device, or on the screen now, and hopefully this is sharing appropriately, on your left-hand side we have the JSS, or the Jamf Software Server. And for anyone that's new to the Casper Suite and to Jamf Software, welcome. The JSS is really your main administrative console. It's a web-based console that you'll go to and actually do most of your day-to-day tasks within the JSS. On the right, we have an iOS 7 device. It's an iPad mini that's running iOS 7. And from here, we're actually going to be able to see a lot of the changes take place for what we're doing and the things that we're looking at. The three things that I want to talk about first is more around this idea of a collaborative work environment and what Apple has made available to MDM vendors with iOS 7 and some of the recent changes with iOS. Specifically, what we want to talk about is the Casper Suite support for Apple TVs. Apple TVs as a collaborative tool are really changing what it means in an office space to collaborate with one another. It's a cheap solution to be able to plug in a device. It's very simple. It's very user-friendly to plug in and then start immediately sharing your screen with anyone that you're working with in a small group, in a large group, in a conference room, whatever it may be. Here at Jamf Software, we use Apple TVs heavily. Every screen that we have, be it a television or a monitor, a projector, all of those have an Apple TV connected to them for this collaborative work environment. And so more than just an ability to collect the inventory of the Apple TVs, the Casper Suite has taken what's made available with iOS 7 to really help not only track our Apple TVs in an inventory type of idea, but then configure the iOS devices, our iPads, our iPhones, our iPod Touches, and even our Macs to utilize these Apple TVs and have the configuration done for us. Specifically with iOS 7, we're going to talk about how we can actually enroll an Apple TV, and then we'll look at ways we can do some setup and configuration. The enrollment is very simple. Here under the mobile devices, you can see that we have an enrollment profile. And I've got a couple different enrollment profiles set up for me automatically that I did beforehand. But really all we do is just say, I want an enrollment profile. And let's say this is going to be for the Cupertino office, Cupertino. And we can say this is the enrollment profile for Apple TVs for Cupertino. And from here, what I can do is, put in some information if there's purchasing information or any of that type of specifics, maybe in the room or the building. I might want to change this to Jamf Cupertino or to one of our other offices that we have here. But really, we just save that, we download that profile, and we use Apple's tools, Apple Configurator, to actually enroll the Apple TV into the JSS. It shows up here on the mobile devices, and I've got an advanced search set up for me to show my Apple TVs. And really all this is keying off is that the model is an Apple TV. And from there you can see that I have one Apple TV set up and enrolled in my JSS. So from an inventory perspective, the JSS helps us as administrators bring all these devices into inventory and have a common place to find all the information, not only about our Macs, our iPods, iPhones, or iPads, but also about our Apple TVs, and have this information here, be it hardware information, software information about what's there, the profiles, that sort of thing, all defined right within the JSS. We can do some configuration of Apple TVs like our Wi-Fi and have that deploy to connect up our Apple TVs automatically to the Wi-Fi network within those buildings. I think what's more exciting is the ways that we can use the information, and not necessarily just the inventory, but also the integration with the JSS and what that means for me as an administrator. So if you can think about me as an admin here, or as an end user rather, on my iOS 7 device, if I look at AirPlay, you can see that I've got all these different Apple TVs right here in our Minneapolis office. You know, I've got all our shared rooms like in Huron and Michigan, and the different rooms that we have in this office named after the lakes that are nearby. But there's just a lot of things that are there. From an admin perspective, those are a bunch of Apple TVs that I need to configure and then share the credential to our end users to get onto those Apple TVs and be able to actually AirPlay to those. What the JSS and the Casper Suite allow us to do are to automate that configuration and deployment. And so not only can I keep an accurate inventory of the Apple TVs that I have, but I can also configure my devices automatically to be able to display to those devices. So here under the configuration profiles, you can see I've got my configuration set up for my different offices, one for Minneapolis and one for Eau Claire. Here under AirPlay, I've defined the configuration to say this device can deploy to these Apple TVs, to these device IDs, and this is the passcode for that device. So when that device tries to AirPlay to that target, to that specific Apple TV, it's going to automatically authorize that without an end user having to know that password. It makes it very simple for me as an administrator because I can use a smart mobile device group for all my devices in the Minneapolis office, and our smart groups are dynamic based on whatever criteria we have. And so this could be based off of our LDAP information that we have here at Jamf Software. But anyone that's ever within the Minneapolis office, whether that's based off of LDAP or based off of IP address, that type of information, we can automatically configure to get the profiles that we need. And so here, if I just deploy this down to my device, I can change the scope to add my iPad that we have here on the right-hand side to bring that device into scope. Now I'm going to save that, and it's going to deploy that configuration profile here. And you can see that here under the general, I've got my config profile for the Jamf Minneapolis. And now instead of that big long list, we just have the one that we have for that target and the one that we're currently using in Reflector to be able to see that. So I can connect up to that device, I can utilize it without having to know the credential as an end user, and I can only see the simplistic view of what's available to me without having to sort through and pick and choose what I have. The opposite, when I move back to Eau Claire, I'm based out of the Eau Claire office, my device falls out of scope of that. It automatically distributes this update to all my devices. And, Reflector made that a little bit bigger there. But now when I go back into Eau Claire, you can see now I've got that full list again right down to my device. So from an admin perspective, I can track my inventory. I can allow my end users to be able to connect up to those AirPlay targets, those Apple TVs, without having to do any manual work. It just automatically happens as they go from building to building. And I can allow my end users to utilize this collaborative work environment more effectively and efficiently without driving my help desk tickets or that sort of thing up. It's very helpful, and I think it's going to be really great in commercial organizations as well as education organizations to be able to utilize this integration and the multiple pieces together to take advantage of that new technology. We're excited to hear how you're using Apple TVs within your environment, and as you have some sort of thoughts or different ways that you're doing this, let us know. I think share on Jamf Nation in the community. Let folks know what you're doing. If you're able to attend the Jamf Nation User Conference, which is coming up in the October 15th is the first date, we're going to have a couple different sessions as a part of the JNUC talking about the digital classroom and Apple TVs there. And then there's also a mini session set up for just other people to talk about how they're using that. So obviously, feel free to come to the JNUC. I hope you can be there. We'll be there, obviously. But if you could be a part of those sessions as well and hear some great ideas from one another, I think there's a lot of power there. The next piece that we want to talk about, specific to the changes in iOS 7 and how the Casper Suite helps take advantage of those changes, is around data security. And this is not necessarily specifically a commercial concern, a commercial enterprise organization concern, but it is something that we hear more feedback from commercial organizations. The problem that we hear a lot about in commercial organizations is, I want to be able to utilize a bring your own iPhone device or bring your own iPad or a BYO program, but I don't know how to either compartmentalize that data or ensure that that data is secure or keep my organization's stuff separate from my personal stuff. Me as a Jamf employee, I have an iPad and we do a BYO type model, and I want to be able to keep my stuff separate from my work stuff, and I want, as an admin, that work stuff to be secure and that data to be secure. And so what we've seen with iOS 7 is that Apple has introduced native technology to take advantage of the mobile devices and the platforms that's there to allow our end users to have their personal space on those devices, but then also let the organizations provide things like apps and Wi-Fi and those connections, but keep that not only secure, but segregated from the personal stuff without using separate apps or that type of technology. This is all native and preserving the user experience that we're used to. When we're looking at data security, there's really three things that are important for an enterprise organization that iOS 7 helps with, and these are the three major concerns that we hear back. The first is securing who has access to the data. And so a good use case or workflow of this is I have a young daughter, and when I go home and I have my iPad that's got all my work stuff on it, my daughter likes to play around on my iPad like I think most kids do. They get it, and it's very intuitive for them. It's one of the great things about it. But my personal stuff is there as well as my work stuff. And so my daughter has the ability to send an email to all Jamf or maybe send an email to a customer. And that's an easy one to kind of laugh off and say, oh, hey, I let my daughter use my iPad and she accidentally sent an email out or whatever that may be. What's less easy to explain is when my daughter may accidentally delete a file from a corporate share that I have access to within a Box account that we all have within a Box.com app. Or maybe that's something similar to that where data gets missing because of an accident or unintentional. Or who has access to the data could also go to, I've lost my device, and now someone who's unintended may have that device. And so making sure that we can protect that data and who has access to that data is something that iOS 7 has taken big steps forward in. The next is when we look at securing the data that sits on the device itself and securing that data at rest. The data is just sitting there, what do I do about that? And then we have securing the data in motion. So I launch an app, and that app pulls a bunch of data down from a corporate share. How do we secure that easily and effectively? The first one we're going to talk about is securing who has access to that data. And that's going to be utilizing a new payload profile from Apple called Single Sign-On, SSO. And what Single Sign-On allows us to do is, it's kind of just like the name implies. We can define a single credential and allow or deny that credential to get us into specific apps or to be present on the device based on those criteria. So you can see here I've got a couple already defined, but the first thing I want to do is just say who's going to get access to this SSO profile, this single sign-on. And so I want all my devices that are within the offices to get access to the single sign-on information. So I've got the different groups here, and this is all based off our LDAP information. And again, it's dynamic based on what's populated and how the devices check in. The next thing that I'm going to do is go into the configuration profiles, and I'm going to define a new profile for our Amsterdam office, for Jamf Amsterdam. It's going to install automatically so that anytime one of our end users here at Jamf goes to our Amsterdam office to support anyone that's in Asia or Europe out of that office, we can go through, define that. It's going to automatically happen, and now we're going to define what's actually going to go onto that device. So I'm going to go to the single sign-on, tap Configure, and here you can see I've got a couple different options. The first one is the account name, and this is just a display name for Amsterdam. and now the principal name, which is the username for that device, or the username that will authenticate. And so with LDAP information and having that populated, we can use the $username variable to grab the username automatically from that device's location information to find out who that person is. And then we define our Kerberos realm. And so with that information, now we can actually start limiting what apps have access to SSO. So similar to this compartmentalization idea where admins want to be able to secure the corporate stuff but leave the personal stuff alone, we can do that here by saying, hey, only specific applications, our corporate apps, are going to be able to use this SSO. Or maybe you use a web share, like we use a wiki that we have internally at Jamf, and we can define those specific URL patterns that when browsed through Safari can access this SSO information as well. And so here I can say, what's the bundle ID for the specific app? I can define that, like maybe that's for iBooks or a different app that has that. I can deploy that down to my devices, and now those devices have that single sign-on information. The great part about this is that if I don't want my end users to be able to get to that app, or I don't want my end users, for whatever reason, a specific device to no longer get access to this single sign-on, let's say an end user loses a device or gets stolen from their bag or anything like that, one of those disaster scenarios. As an enterprise organization, I can go into my JSS, I can remove this profile from that device, and so that device can no longer authenticate and utilize and get access to that corporate data. And so when we're looking at securing who has access to that data, the built-in technology with iOS 7 and the way that the Casper Suite is able to utilize that new technology makes it easy for us as admins to secure that and ensure that only the right individuals or the appropriate individuals have access to that data. Very exciting stuff. We can do reporting on the backside about that to say, hey, who has SSO defined for Amsterdam? Who of my devices in this location have that? And do some of that reporting on the backside as well. The next piece of data security that iOS 7 and the Casper Suite helps us as administrators is securing the data that's at rest and the data that's sitting on the devices. And really what we want to be able to do, and the problem that we heard kind of articulated from the different administrators that I get a chance to work with, it's basically, how do I know that the device itself, that's secure and the data that's in there is secure? But also, how do I make sure that that data isn't going out into different services or getting backed up into places that I can't have control of? So how do I know that the keynote presentations that the sales team is using with confidential information aren't moving out into personal iTunes accounts or out to iCloud or into different places? And so what we're able to do with the devices themselves with iOS and the Casper Suite is to be able to say, these devices can back up to these specific locations, or these specific apps, we can limit the backup data that's there. And so here under the mobile devices, configuration profiles, I can say new. And what I want to do is create a setup so that my corporate devices aren't backing up their data to iCloud. What I want to make sure is that the end user devices aren't sending their personal or their corporate data to their personal iCloud account. And using the technology that's in iOS 7, we can just come through and deploy a configuration profile to say we don't want to allow document syncing or iCloud backup for the entire device or for the global device. That may be a little heavy-handed, or maybe that may be too much, where we want to allow our end users to do individual personal backups, but not necessarily back up our corporate data. We want to allow them to utilize that technology to back up their data without leaking our corporate data. And we can do that as well with built-in technology for iOS. Here under the apps, you've got a bunch of different apps that we have here, and we can just look at Pages, for example. But any managed app has the privilege or the ability to prevent the backup of that app data. And so when we look at defining the app catalog that the organization deploys or makes available to the individuals within that organization, we can make sure that that enterprise information or that corporate data is not backed up to iTunes or to the iCloud, wherever that may be. We can just define that specific to the app itself to say, hey, this is compartmentalized corporate data. You as an employee or an individual within this enterprise has access to that data, but you can't back that up or put that into other areas. And so we can really secure that data at rest by making sure it's not leaked out to different places or different locations. And as an admin in an enterprise organization, make sure that I know my information's not going where it's not supposed to. The last piece that we're able to do with iOS 7 is securing data in motion. And this is a particularly exciting one, at least for me, just because there's a lot of really cool things that it can do. iOS devices, I think from their first, from iOS 1 or whatever it was then, I think iPhone OS is what it was called, I could deploy VPN information. VPN has always been there. It's something that we could do and take advantage of. Where enterprise organizations had a little bit of trouble is making sure that that VPN information was there. And so I could deploy that automatically with the advent of MDM with iOS 4.2. I could deploy a VPN profile down to the device to say, hey, my end users now have the ability to connect up to our corporate VPN and get access to that. And I, as an administrator, can secure that transmission between the two endpoints. From my iOS device, from my end user iPads to our corporate environment, that stuff is now secure, and I know that a man in the middle can't get access to that or whatever because of the security procedures I have around VPN. What iOS 7 introduces is the ability to not only force that data connection, but force it on a per app basis or on a per browser link basis. And so per a URL or for a specific Apple app on an iOS device or app on an iOS device, not just those provided by Apple, we can make sure that the devices actually utilize that connection and force the VPN to enable when I'm looking at utilizing that per app VPN. This is all about securing that data that's in motion and making sure that when any device that's in my enterprise organization accesses corporate data, it's over the VPN and it's secure because our VPN is secure, and I know that that stuff is going to be there. It makes it very helpful for us as administrators to just set up this configuration. All we need to do is here under the mobile devices, I can go to configuration profiles, and the first thing that I want to do is define that VPN information. So I'm going to say this is VPN for corporate apps. And we can, whatever that's going to be, let's just say that's Keynote. I think I might already have one for Keynote. Let's say Pages. I'm going to go under VPN and go to Configure. And here I can just give this a name, so we can say this is the Pages VPN connection. And I can define that this is a per app VPN, and I want to automatically start this per app VPN connection. So the difference here is that as an end user, if we don't have this checkbox checked, I would have to go and say connect up to this VPN and then launch my app. Not a great end user experience, but Apple's given us the ability with iOS 7 to check that box, and it automatically happens every time I utilize this with the app itself. Then I can define my VPN information. Whatever one we have here, we can just define that information, like vpn.jamfsoftware.com. My user count, again, I can do my dollar username, a realm, role, whatever that may be. And if I don't define a password, it will prompt me as an end user for that passcode the first time I take advantage or utilize and connect up. So I'm going to save that, and now I have my VPN payload defined. The next step is to associate the app that I want to deploy with that VPN payload. And so here we're looking at the VPN for Pages. So I'm going to go into Pages, and this is already available in my self-service, but what I want to do is change this from the per app VPN from none to the Pages VPN connection. And now when this app deploys down to the devices themselves, this is going to take the VPN connection, it's going to deploy that down to the end user devices with the app itself, and with the app and the per app VPN payloads scoped to those devices, anytime I as an end user go in and launch that app, it's going to kick off that VPN connection, and I as an administrator know that that's a secure connection between those 2 points. Very helpful for making sure that everything is there and that everything is getting connected. I just saw a note that the audio was lost, and so hopefully we're good. Okay, cool. I saw a chat thing pop up, so great that you guys are using that. We're watching that. Thank you very much, and if you guys have any other questions, again, we'll take a look at the questions towards the end. The last piece around data security that we want to talk about, and this is a new piece with iOS 7, and how the Casper Suite takes advantage of this, is this idea of a managed open-in. And that's kind of a fancy way of saying what we can do is compartmentalize the data. We can preserve the end user experience by making sure that they can use all the apps that they're familiar with and they're comfortable with, and they have everything they need. But we can also do this in a way to secure the data. So not just the data at rest, the data in motion, and the access to data that we talked about, but also where can that data go and what other apps might get that data. And so here on my device, just because I'm more of a pictures person than not, I've got Keynote deployed as a managed app on this iPad. And so you can see that on the one screen. And then here's all my personal stuff, right? So I've got some gardening stuff because I was trying to get into gardening this year. I didn't get anything, but I got a lot of rabbits. I got some music stuff because I like music. I've got iBooks and I've got Dropbox. So some things that I have on my personal account that I like to use and I utilize regularly. And then I've got Keynote as a managed app. All this shows up in my inventory. All this stuff is there. And you can see that I've got my device here with this information deployed on that. Keynote shows up as a managed app, and all that is fine and great. That managed app is a corporate app that Jamf software has provided to me as an end user. What I can do from here from an IT administrator perspective is I can say, I don't want my corporate data to be able to be opened up in non-corporate apps or vice versa. So I don't want to have my end users be able to open up their personal data and store that on our corporate share or just have that access there. Or I don't want to be able to have my corporate data leak onto a personal Dropbox account. If there's different information that I as an employee have access to, maybe this is here in Keynote, we can launch that. And let me move Reflector over here so you guys can see. I've got a couple Keynotes here, and I want to be able to open this right now as an end user. I have the ability to open this as a PDF or in a Keynote in different apps that I want, right? So you can see iBooks and Dropbox are two apps that are non-managed, non-corporate provided apps that I can open this in. And so I can open that in iBooks here, and now I've got my presentation right in iBooks. And so this is a data security issue for administrators who are trying to make sure that their data is not able to move to non-secure locations or to unmanaged locations. What we can do with the Casper Suite in iOS 7 is we can define those access rights based on Managed Open In, or MOI. That's what we've been calling it, data leak protection. This is just me trying to say, as an admin, I don't want this data from corporate managed locations to be able to leak to unmanaged locations. And so here, under the restrictions, I've got two checkboxes to check. One is to allow opening managed app documents in unmanaged apps, and so I'm not allowing that, and also not allowing unmanaged apps to open up their data in managed apps. And so I can configure whatever is most important for me as an admin to say, I really want to make sure that my end users can't take our corporate data and put that in their personal space right from the device. And so we can check that. And maybe this one's not as important, the ability for end users to put their data into corporate space, but the options are there, and that's what's great. There's that flexibility there. And so with this, I can go into my scoping here, and I'm going to scope this down to my device that we're using here just so we can see what this looks like. And so I find my device, I add that, I save that, and now this restriction to allow my devices to open their managed apps is down and deployed to my device already. And so here now, if you remember when we looked before in Keynote, I could take that data and I can open that in another app. Right now, because I have no other managed apps, Keynote tells me that I can't open this in another app. As soon as I try to open it into anything else, it'll say, hey, you can't open it in anything. The message that it shows me is say, I don't know what app you want me to open this in because I don't have any available that can take a PDF or a Keynote or that sort of thing. And so it's very simple for me as an admin to force and only enable our corporate data to move to specific apps. It's helpful for our end users because end users can use all the apps that they're used to. They don't have to have a special app or a different location. They can use the native experience and everything that they're used to, and an admin can still enforce the things that they need to from a corporate data security perspective. iOS 7 is hugely helpful in that area in data security and data protection. There's a lot of other things, whether that's in restrictions or Wi-Fi setup and different options that are available. We wanted to talk about those three specific for data in a corporate environment. And the last thing that we want to talk about is with an exciting app that we've been looking at called Casper Focus, and some of the changes to Casper Focus that have been made to help take advantage of what's new in iOS 7. What I'm going to do, and what we should see here, is I'm actually just going to minimize the JSS. And here we've got Casper Focus on another iPad that I'm using. For anyone that's new to Jamf software and the Casper Suite, Casper Focus is specifically an iOS app made for educators to utilize the technology available in iOS devices and actually do some classroom management. And so there's limited technology. This idea of the consumerization of IT management is providing limited management functionality to end users or middle users. And so if you think about in a classroom, one-to-one or one-to-many deployments of iOS devices are becoming hugely popular, as the iPad is such a great learning experience with the dynamic text in iBooks, with the access to the information that I have as a student. I can get to anything. With iTunes University, there's just so many great ways to take advantage of this technology, and Casper Focus helps educators utilize this technology in an effective way and make it easy for them to not only manage the classrooms, but help in the education experience to make it very simple within the classroom without needing IT involvement or that type of thing. And so what we have within Casper Focus is the ability to lock apps, or lock devices rather, into specific applications. And so not necessarily through the web portal, through the JSS, but this is just right from my personal iPad here. I've got Casper Focus, and I can launch this as an educator, and I can see all the devices that are in my class, and I can start doing things with those. So you can see my JM test. This is the device that we have on the right, and this is a device that's in my class. And so maybe what we're doing in our class is I want to have all my students look at a specific book or look in iBooks. And so I'm going to focus my end users into iBooks. And what this is going to do is it's going to force the device to go into iBooks and not into any other application. Those end users will not be able to utilize anything else, as iBooks is the only app that they would be able to get into on that. It makes it very helpful for us as educators to be able to force all that, not just single devices, but maybe there's a few devices that I want to deploy that to, and I can have all these devices actually get into the specific app that I want to use. Some of the things that we've been able to do with the new version of the Casper Suite is I can pick a subset of the classes or the devices that I want to focus, and I can focus those. It's not just one device or all devices, maybe it's some devices. From there, maybe I want to search for a specific app, and so new changes let us as educators search for that app and choose to focus on that app and take advantage of that. So it makes it very helpful for us to see that information, to be able to deploy this configuration to get onto a specific app, and then also do it for just the devices that we want to do. We're also able to clear passcodes on the device. That's been a feature of Casper Focus since its introduction. And one of the new features with Casper Focus that we're excited about is the ability for an educator to add books for their specific class. And so here, if I look on the panel that's on the left, I can go into eBooks. And now this is integrated directly with the iBook store. I can search for a specific ebook. And let's say a book that we want to read is anything by Stephen Covey, because I'm a fan of Covey. We should probably go by author. We can search by the title, by the author. We can show that information. Here's the different information about Stephen Covey, or the different things that are there. Maybe I just want my students to be able to see this summary of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We can take that, add that book to the specific class, just one class. Maybe just my English class is going to read that because they're particularly ineffective and I want them to read that book. I can add that to my class. And now as a student within that class, I'll be able to add that book, see that in my inventory in self-service, and take advantage of the integration of the Casper Suite with the iBook store and Casper Focus. What this means is educators can, in their off time or in the time that's not necessarily when an IT individual is available, they can add their curriculum, add the books that they want their students to take a look at, or add the things that they want them to be able to see right from their Casper Focus app. And so without having IT involvement, they're able to add this information, have all this available to their students themselves, and we can see all the different books that this educator may have made available to these different students over the time. This is just what we have in ours. But you can see that the ability for an educator to add those ebooks, focus those devices onto specific app, and even clear those passcodes If a student forgets their passcode or sets a passcode that they don't remember, we can do all that through Casper Focus. iOS 7 and the Casper Suite provide workflows for administrators to do great things. We're really excited about what this provides for you as administrators to be able to take advantage of this functionality to help secure the data, to utilize Apple TVs in a classroom, and to use Casper Focus. When we're looking at this integration, the great part about what we have with the Apple TV and Casper Focus in student devices is I'm able to, as an administrator, take a specific device like this JM test device, and I can actually focus that device to the app, and then I can share their screen utilizing the Apple TV. So if you remember at the beginning, we talked about the ability to automatically set up and configure the devices to get access to AirPlay targets without credential because we've defined that automatically. Casper Focus takes it even another step further to say, now I'm going to take the device that's in my class and I'm going to focus it onto a specific app and share that information out with the rest of the classroom. It makes it very simple for us as administrators to utilize all this technology to help make a digital classroom a possibility and very simple. Us as administrators to provide access to corporate data without worrying about that security information or without worrying about that getting leaked elsewhere. And us as admins to not have to spend so much time during the day, or as an admin, I spent most of my time. My work day wasn't the 9 to 5; it was the 9 to 9, and I think a lot of people probably resonate with that. But we can do a lot of this automatically, and so you get that time back. You don't necessarily need to be working all the time, or a lot of the stuff that's firefighting the JSS can do for us. We're excited about the recent version of the Casper Suite. We're very excited about what's available in iOS 7, and we're looking forward to hopefully seeing some of you at the Jamf Nation User Conference and continuing this conversation. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.